Hi,
Hi,
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine. So, Nick, Thelma marks your debut as a solo composer for a film studio. How did you this opportunity come about, and what was your initial reaction?
I got involved pretty early because my friend Josh directed a movie, and I've known him since high school. So he brought me on um, when he'd finished the script, even before he started shooting the movie. So we were talking about music and thinking about the score really early on.
Can you walk us through your creative process for scoring Thelma? How did you approach blending electronic production with live instrumentation?
I think it was pretty much a organic process where we started with more electronic stuff and then it didn't really work from all the movie, and so then we started getting into treating it like it was an action movie and using more bongos and flutes and things like that, organic elements, and sort of combining the two worlds together. And it just sort of evolved over the course of production and post-production.
Oh, sorry, you have mentioned drawing inspiration from iconic soundtracks of the 60s and 70s from Delta. Which specific works influenced you the most, and how did you incorporate those elements into your score?
Yeah, well, I love those old soundtracks, and I think the biggest ones were the scores composed by Lalo Schifrin, who did the original Mission Impossible theme, which is definitely an inspiration. But um, he also did a movie called Bullet, which is a really great movie score starring with Steve McQueen, and that one uses a lot of flute in it, which I think was one of the big inspirations for Thelma. And then also Chinatown and a bit of a John Bryan score for Punch Drunk Love, I think was another big reference point for some of the more emotional parts. And um, yeah, I think also probably the movie Clute, which is another great score. I think was another one that we sometimes reference, particularly for some of the like antique store sections.
Recording percussion for Thelma in the same studio where Lalo Schifrin created the Mission Impossible TV theme sounds incredible. Can you share what that experience was like?
It was really cool. It's a really famous studio.
Mm.
They also the Beach Boys recorded there and Frank Sinatra, and it's called East West. It used to be called, I think, Western Studios back in the 60s. And it's just a great sounding place. I mean, they haven't really changed the interior of the actual studios themselves that much, and it has the same soundproofing and acoustic setup as it did back then. And I think it's just a great timeless sound, and it was really amazing to be able to go in there and have a whole day to record as many percussion bits. And we did a second day with flute and saxophone, and it was just really fun.
How did you balance the comedy and action elements of Thelma stories for your music?
It took a long time. I think, a lot of it was trial and error. We it was a big collaboration between me and the director Josh, writer, director, and editor Josh Margolan, and the producers Zoe Worth and Chris Kay, and we would, have a lot of discussions about when things were tipping too broad or too serious, or if they sometimes the biggest concern was not having it make fun of the protagonist, Thelma, have it be always from her perspective and have the music go along with her for her journey rather than from the audience's perspective and laughing at her or punching down, I think was the big concern. So we spent a lot of time thinking about the tone of the music and how that would play a role.
June Squibb, character Thelma, is a 94-year-old grandmother on a quest for revenge. How did you reflect her unique perspective and journey in your score?
Um, I think for me, the big thing was the concept was sort of like if you tell the music through her eyes, then it will never be making fun of her or punching down or feeling like the audience is in on a joke or something. So for us, it was like, what would be the movie scores that she would be hearing in her head, and what were her reference points? And those would be the older film scores that we were just talking about, like Chinatown and Bullet and Mission Impossible. So I think our our reference point was just those, like, what would be her soundtrack playing in her head as she goes through the antique store, climbs up a set of stairs. What is she hearing in her head?
Working closely with director Josh Margolin and producer Zoe Roth and Chris Kane, what was the collaborative process like for creating the film score?
Um, it was definitely really collaborative. I mean, I started by sending them just a bunch of material based on the script, and then they went and shot the movie, and then they were able to use some of that as their temp music when they were editing the movie. And then from there, that's a sort of good jumping off point into what's working and what's not working. And then we got more into doing the older sounding vintage spy movie kind of music, and that required us to go into the studio and record and hone it in from there. So it was definitely, it was a year and a half of collaboration and a lot of discussions and back and forth.
Thelma has received critical acclaim, including a 99 rating on Rotten Tomatoes. How did you feel about the reception, and what feedback have you received regarding your score?
I mean, it's amazing, definitely.
Yeah, of
I
course.
think it's surpassed our expectations. Um, I think, yeah, I mean, some people seem to really like the score, and it's gotten a couple mentions, and I'm just really glad. It's hard to make uh, music for comedies that doesn't tip into sort of cheesiness or feeling overly broad. So I'm definitely really excited that people seem to be liking it.
You have co-scored several projects with Atticus Ross, including Shogun. How did your past collaboration with him influence your work on Thelma?
Well, I guess I basically learned how to score movies by working with him. So pretty much he's my biggest influence, I'd say. Um, but just generally, I mean, just sort of thinking how to think about story and think about the character and get in the right mindset to create something that's appropriate for the movie, and not just about your music, but about the movie itself, and how to talk to directors and how to think about things like a filmmaker, not just a musician. I think that would be the biggest thing.
Nice. Thelma features the final performance of Richard Roundtree. Did his role of the film Legacy influence your approach to the score in any way?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the 70s reference points definitely come from his movies as well. And I think there's definitely no doubt that his legacy influenced the music for sure.
The Thelma soundtrack has been released by Milan Records. Can you talk about the selection of the track and how they contribute into the overall narrative of the film?
Yeah, we basically every piece of music in a movie is in the soundtrack, and we actually usually when I do an album, we just try and think of it as its own thing, where it has its own track listing based on how the flow of the album would work on itself. But in this one, we really tried to have the album follow the arc of the movie. So it starts with the opening and it ends with the last track of the movie. And I think that was also the most natural way for the album to be constructed. So um, we did that rough blueprint, and then I also added some pieces to make it sound a bit more interesting just by itself. So there's a little bit of an extra arrangements and extensions and new parts, but generally the flow of the album is the same as the movie.
Tracks like Scooter Chase and Night Walk are standout pieces in the soundtrack. Can you delve into the inspiration and creation process behind these specific tracks?
Yeah, I mean, especially on something like Night Walk, that one
Yeah.
was much more like based on or inspired by Jerry Goldsmith Chinatown use of the water phone, which is an instrument that you bow, but it has water in the base of it, and it creates an eerie sort of spooky sound. It's used a lot in Chinatown, as well as there's a scraped piano where you go inside the lid of the piano and scrape the strings, which is something he uses a lot, and that's also in Nightwalk. And so I think that one is definitely a clear, inspiration point. And then Scooter Chase is definitely more. It's got the main bass line, which is from Thelma's actual theme, and that one's definitely Mission Impossible inspired, I would say, um, especially with the bongos and the drum beat and the bass line being one of the main driving factors.
In addition to Thelma, you have worked on scores for projects like Dr. Death, The Girl from Plainville, and Operation Varsity Blues. How did you adapt your scoring approach for different genre or format?
Um, I think it's just about thinking about the story and the characters and seeing what that tells you about what to do with the music. In this case, I mean, those are all dramas in one way or another, and this is more of a comedy. So it was definitely new for me
Mhm.
thinking about it. And I think it took a little bit longer for me to get used to that sort of tone. But I think at the end of the day, they all come back to the story and the characters.
You are also part of the experimental electronic duo VWLS. How does your work with VWLS influence your film scoring and vice versa?
I think that they're pretty much the same. I mean, we that's a group I started with my friend from college, and we just take the same approach, which is just trying to find interesting sounds and trying to do something cool with music. Obviously, it's a little different because there's no picture, so you're just working with a blank slate, which is a little bit is in some ways harder because you don't have any direction. Where the movie usually tells you sort of what's working and what's not working.
What were some of the biggest challenges you faced while working on Thelma, and how did you overcome them?
Um, I think some of the biggest challenges were definitely figuring out how to keep something suspenseful but not out of place with the situation. So, like when she's climbing the stairs, it needs to feel like a thriller, but it also needs to not feel like you're making fun of her or that you're sort of making fun of the situation that it's just a set of stairs. Why is it, you know, so tense? So finding the balance of making it feel thrilling without feeling like you're making fun of the situation was probably the hardest part.
With Thelma being such a unique film, what are some of the case lessons or experiences you are taking forward into your future projects?
Um, I think probably, well, I met a bunch of great musicians
Mhm.
working on this, especially the drummer that we used a lot, Jake Reed, who plays a lot of the drums that you hear in the percussion. And then the flutist, Tim McKay and Dan Kanayuki, who played. I think just meeting them and having a sort of now a relationship with them that I can take with me into new projects and a shorthand is going to be really, really cool.
Looking back at your career from studying in the USC Thornton School of Music to now, what do you consider your most significant milestone and why?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I haven't really thought about it. I guess maybe just getting to work with Atticus, I guess, in some ways, because that got my career started.
Nice.
Yeah.
Your ability to blend traditional and modern techniques is often praised. How do you stay inspired and innovative to your composition?
Um, I think just trying to write music every day is the big thing for me. I'm not. I think when I stop or don't write music for a while, it takes even longer to get back into it. So I think it just becomes a thing of doing it. If you do it every day, then you find something to be inspired by, and it becomes easier.
What advice would you give to someone as aspiring composers looking to break into the film industry?
Well, I guess just that, probably write music every day and, trying to make connections and stuff. But I think the biggest thing is, especially when you're starting, is getting good at getting good at what you're naturally good at with music, and so that when you do get an opportunity, you have the ability to show that you can make something cool and get people excited about what you're doing.
And my last question, what upcoming projects are you most excited about, and what can your fans look forward to in the near future?
Well, I've got a couple of things coming up, which is working on a few documentaries.
Mhm.
I'm not exactly sure when they'll come out, and I'm not sure if I can yet say what they are, but those will be the new things that I'm doing. And those will be more back to my sort of normal roots, which are just more electronic based music. And I'm definitely excited about the music that we're writing for them. So those will be the next things. Yeah.
Thank you, Nick. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you so
See you.
much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.